You know, I was reading through some really old texts this morning, Proverbs 25 and 26 to be exact, and I was struck by how modern it all felt. It starts with this incredibly mysterious line about secrets. It says it's the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the glory of kings to search it out. It felt like the opening to a detective novel.
It really does set a dramatic stage, doesn't it? It's almost defining the fundamental tension of human existence. You have the universe, which is full of hidden complexities. That's the concealed part. And then you have leadership, or kings, whose entire purpose is to decode that complexity. It's not just about royalty, it's about the mandate of leadership to dig for the truth.
Right? And that due diligence piece is huge. It compares the heart of a king to the height of the heavens and the depth of the earth, basically saying true leadership is unsearchable. You can't easily figure out a great leader's mind because they are processing so much depth. But then it immediately pivots to something very practical: personnel management.
The silver refining metaphor?
Exactly. Take away the dross from the silver.
It's such a powerful image. If you want a vessel that's actually useful, you have to heat up the silver and skim off the impurities. The text explicitly links this to politics. Take away the wicked from the king's presence, and the throne is established. It's saying that a leader is only as stable as the people whispering in their ear. If you keep the dross, the corrupt advisors, the yes men, the whole structure collapses.
Which leads into the personal conduct stuff. There's this great advice about social climbing. It basically says, don't walk into a room and act like you own the place.
The classic dinner party etiquette. Don't sit at the head of the table only to be asked to move down for someone more important. That's a universal nightmare scenario, isn't it? The public shame of being demoted in front of everyone.
It's the ancient version of check your ego before someone else checks it for you. It suggests it's far better to stand in the back and be invited forward. It's about the strategic advantage of humility. If you assume a lower status, the only way you can go is up.
Speaking of strategy, I love how these chapters handle conflict. It warns against being hasty to go to court.
Oh, I loved that part. It's asking, what are you going to do in the end when your neighbor shames you? It's a warning about the unintended consequences of legal battles. You might start a fight you can't finish. Or worse, you air your dirty laundry and ruin your reputation forever.
It emphasizes solving things privately. Debate your case with your neighbor, but keep the secret secret. If you betray confidence, you get branded as untrustworthy. And once that label sticks, it never washes off. It's fascinating how much weight the text puts on reputation and the timing of words.
That brings us to one of the most famous lines. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver.
It's beautiful imagery. It's not just about the content of what you say, the apple, but the setting, the context. You can have the truth, the gold, but if you deliver it at the wrong time or in the wrong way, it loses its beauty. But when the timing and the truth align, it's a masterpiece.
And on the flip side, there's the clouds and wind without rain. That's the person who boasts about giving gifts but never delivers. All hype, no product. We see that in marketing all the time.
Vaporware. It's incredibly frustrating. It's a betrayal of expectation, just like the broken tooth or lame foot metaphor used later for relying on an unfaithful person in times of trouble. You put your weight on them, expecting support, and not only do they fail, but it hurts you in the process.
There's also a really interesting, slightly controversial piece of advice in there about enemies. If your enemy is hungry, give him food.
The coals of fire passage?
Yeah. For you will heap coals of fire on his head. Now, is that revenge? Is that kindness? It feels like a psychological trap.
It's a brilliant paradox. On the surface, it's supreme kindness, feeding someone who hates you, but the coals of fire represents a burning shame or a melting of their hostility. You aren't fighting fire with fire, you're fighting hostility with aggressive generosity. It disarms them. It's much harder to hate someone who is handing you a glass of water when you're dying of thirst.
It completely breaks the cycle of retaliation. But then we move into chapter 26, and the tone shifts. We go from kings and gold apples to fools and sluggards.
Chapter 26 is almost a satire. It starts by saying honor fits a fool about, as well as snow fits in summer. It's unnatural. It just doesn't belong.
And then we hit the contradiction that drives everyone crazy. Verse 4. Don't answer a fool according to his folly. Verse 5. Answer a fool according to his folly. So, which is it?
I think that contradiction is intentional. It's showing that there is no single right way to deal with irrationality. If you answer a fool by arguing on their level, you become just like them. You get dragged into the mud. That's the warning.
Right. But if you don't answer them,
Exactly. If you stay silent, they might think they've actually made a brilliant point. They become wise in their own eyes. So the text is presenting you with a dilemma. Do you engage and risk your sanity, or do you ignore them and risk their ego inflating? It's a very internet era problem. Do you feed the trolls or let them think they won?
I feel like the solution is in the middle. You answer them, but not according to their folly. You don't use their logic. You shut it down without playing their game.
That's the nuance. And speaking of people who are impossible to deal with, we have to talk about the sluggard, the lazy man. The excuses in this text are hilarious. There is a lion in the road. A fierce lion is in the streets.
I laughed out loud at that. It's such an extreme excuse. I can't go to work today. There might be a wild animal outside.
It's the psychology of rationalization. The lazy person doesn't say, I don't want to work. They invent a catastrophic danger to justify their inaction. They convince themselves that doing nothing is actually the safer, smarter choice.
And the image of the door turning on its hinges?
As the door turns on its hinges, so does the sluggard on his bed. It's motion without progress. A door moves back and forth all day but never goes anywhere. It's a devastating critique of people who are busy being busy or just rolling over but never actually advancing in life.
Then there's the bit about the guy who is too lazy to bring his hand back to his mouth. That is a level of lethargy I can't even comprehend.
It's hyperbole, but it points to a spiritual or mental paralysis when you become so accustomed to receiving or so unmotivated that even the basic act of sustaining yourself feels like a burden. And the scary part? The text says this sluggard thinks he is wiser than 7 men who can answer sensibly. Laziness often breeds arrogance because you have all day to sit around and theorize about how the world should work without ever engaging with reality.
That connects to the meddler too. The person who gets involved in fights that aren't theirs. Like one who grabs a dog by the ears.
Have you ever tried to grab a stray dog by the ears?
I value my fingers too much for that.
Exactly. It's a recipe for disaster. It's saying that when you insert yourself into a conflict that doesn't belong to you, you are voluntarily grabbing onto violence. You're taking a situation that was passing you by and making it your problem. And now you can't let go without getting bitten.
It's such a vivid warning for the social media age. We see a fight happening online and we just have to jump in. We grab the dog by the ears and then we wonder why we're stressed out and angry.
And usually that anger is fueled by gossip. The text says, for lack of wood, the fire goes out. If you stop feeding a conflict with rumors and he said, she said, the conflict naturally dies. But the whisperer, the gossip, keeps throwing logs on the fire.
The description of the whisperer's words is kind of disturbing, though. It says they are like dainty morsels that go down into the innermost parts.
It's disturbing because it's true. We have an appetite for scandal. It tastes good. It feels like a treat to hear something bad about someone else. But the text warns that it doesn't just stay in your mouth. It goes deep. It settles in your gut and poisons you from the inside.
That leads to the darker ending of chapter 26. The malicious deceiver. The guy who speaks kindly but has 7 abominations in his heart. It warns us not to believe him just because his voice is charming.
This is the sociopath, the person who has mastered the glaze of silver over a clay pot. It looks shiny and valuable on the outside, but underneath it's just common earth. It warns us that charisma is not character. You can paint a cheap pot with silver paint, but it's still a cheap pot.
And the ultimate destiny for that kind of person?
The pit. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. It's the principle of moral recoil. If you spend your life setting traps for others, eventually you forget where you put them or you trip. The stone you roll uphill to crush someone else eventually loses momentum and rolls back down over you.
It's a heavy note to end on, but also kind of hopeful. It implies a moral order to the universe.
It does. It reminds me of the verse at the end of chapter 25, which I think sums up the whole discussion. Like a city whose walls are broken down is a man who lacks self-control.
That's the key, isn't it?
It is. In the ancient world, if your walls were down, you were defenseless. You were a victim waiting to happen. The text is saying that your defense against the chaos, against the fools, against the gossip, and even against your own laziness is self-control. It's the wall that keeps the city safe.
So if we want to be like the kings we talked about at the beginning, searching out the matter, we have to start by building those walls.
Precisely. You build the wall, you filter out the dross, and you watch out for the lions in the street, even the imaginary ones.
A lot to think about. Thanks for breaking this down with me.
Always a pleasure. If you have been blessed by this, please like, subscribe, and share this joy with others. God bless.